Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday and welcome to Coffee and Coaching. I hope you had a fabulous weekend. I know I got up this morning and was like, it kind of feels like Groundhog Day. It's having the markers of what day of the week it is, like with the kids not going to school and with everything just being the same all the time. I think the different days of the week and the routine is even more important than normal. But what I wanted to talk about today was reinvention. So it was quite poignant for me. I woke up today, I went out, my normal morning routine, like we spend a little bit of time with the family, and then I get my cup of coffee and I go and sit outside and I do a little bit of morning journaling, and then I look at social media for a little bit. And so I'd gone on, and the first thing that came up when I went onto Facebook was the memory from 1 year ago. And the memory from 1 year ago was when we landed back from 9 months around the world. And it brought all the feels. It's still bringing all the feels a couple of hours later, because that second when we landed back from traveling around the world for 9 months, how we felt when we touched back down in Australia, the experience that we'd had, the transformation, the life that we had built was so different to right now, going in one short year, how different that feeling can change, how different life can change. So when we touched down, we had no idea what we were going to do. We didn't know where we were going to live. We didn't know what we were going to do for work. We didn't know where the kids were going to go to school necessarily. We didn't know any of it. And so we had to redesign life completely from scratch again. And that was a really exciting thing to do. But the thing that I got thinking about this morning was, it's so easy to fall into back patterns of how we've lived before. And I know with everything that's happening right now, there's a whole lot of people that are at home that don't normally work from home, that are seeing their families more than normal, that are either going really well financially or going the worst financial situation that you've ever been in your life. There is all these different extremes that are going on. Morning, Francis. How are you? Um, so there's all these different things that are going on in the world. And what I want to really make sure is that we're taking stock of those and learning the lessons from them, because we can use this time to completely reinvent our lives. And I think it's not really even a question. There is no doubt about it that from this experience, life will be reinvented. It's just a matter of whether or not we can do it consciously and whether we can hang on to it when things go back to normal. Because, I mean, one of my favorite sayings is, this too shall pass, and this too shall pass. And it could be this time in 1 year, we're sitting there going, whew, how about that, hey? And life has gone completely back to normal. But what I want you to do is look at what's happening in life now and go, when it does go back to normal, do you want to keep doing all of the things that you've done in the past, or are there things that you want to change? Like, one of those significantly for me was when we went on our round the world trip. It was really the first time in my entire life I'd had no pressure. So we had no financial pressure, we had no time pressure, we had no house, we had no responsibilities. We just had to really have fun and keep each other alive, which is bonkers. In terms of what it feels like as an experience. But I wanted to hang on to that. And my entire life, I'd been striving for bigger, for better, for more. And don't get me wrong, I have not lost my ambition. My ambition is strong, it is rife. But for example, when we bought the house that we're in now, I was going to get this like massive, beautiful, multi-million dollar home, because always my response has been, when I go to buy something, is going, well, what will the bank give me? What's the maximum I can get? And then I will go for that. But instead, we ended up getting a really cheap fixer-upper. And so with everything that's going on now, I cannot believe how thankful I am that I don't have mortgage stress. And so learning the lesson from the past and what happened there and how good that freedom feeling felt really served future me in this time. So I really want to hi Sandy, happy Monday. So I want to go, what is something that has happened as you've been going out the last month now that we've been at home, that you've kind of thought, you know what, this is something that has happened that really is a revelation in my life that I want to make sure that I maintain after life goes back to normal? Is it a new routine? Is it a new hobby? What is it that you're going to keep incorporating? And I do think that when life altering things happen like this, hi Shell, good morning. It's a really beautiful time to reflect. So if I know a lot of people that are on here have read my book, One Life, but if you have read it, even if you haven't read it, if you go to onelifebook.com.au and just scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a section there is a course that goes with the book. The course is free. So it's designed to get the URL from the book. After you read the book, you then go and you can go a little deeper. But I think for this time, it's an amazing resource because it does all of the kind of life design stuff. So there's templates there and going, what is your ideal? When we can get back into recreating who we want to be and where we want to go and how we want to live and what our values are and all of those different things, there it's all staged there. It does have videos that go with it, short videos, which you may get a giggle out of because I recorded them after I went on TV. So I'm in full TV makeup, which for you guys, if you're used to watching me on Coffee and Coaching, I put on a little lip gloss and then that's fancy enough. So it is quite funny. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow. Good morning, Belinda. But so if you want to do that, go onelifebook.com.au and you can get that free course just all the way to the bottom. You put in your name and your email address and then you can go and do it. So it really gives you a good framework in being able to reinvent what you want to do. So Francis has said, daily bike ride with my kids, awesome new routine. And so for this type of thing, this is a perfect example because when life goes back to normal, when the kids go back to school, when work starts ramping up, when the whole world comes back into action, how are you going to do this morning bike ride? Are you still going to be able to do it? Because there's things like that that do make us so happy and we have to plan around it. Like one of my most happy routines that I do is, we have cuddles in the morning. So in the morning we wake up and my two boys who are 12 and 10, they come into our bedroom, they lay on the bed, the dog jumps on the bed too, and we just sit there for a good half an hour having a chat about what we're planning in the day, having a chat about random shit as you do with kids that age. But for me, I go, some days there's places I have to go, there's things I'm in a hurry for, but I make sure that I can really orchestrate my life around being able to do that, because to me, it's the most beautiful way to wake up. And I go, my sons are at the age where they're about to be teenagers and they're not going to want to come in the morning and sit there and have a chat with me. And so I don't want to jeopardize that, but I know it's one of my most precious things. So I really want to, Francis has said, yeah, cuddles is my super number one routine. Isn't it beautiful? I just love it, especially at the moment. Belinda does that too, where I just feel like, we need our family connection more than ever because we're not getting it from anywhere else. I mean, the amount, I just feel like hugging people right now is crazy. So yeah, that was what I really wanted to leave you with today is, with what's happened, there is no question about it. It's not whether or not we will go through a period of reinvention. You're going through that period of reinvention right now because this is a cataclysmic, life-altering scenario that we're going through. And so really look at how you want to come out of this, what changes you want to make. If you've had the financial pressure, what can you do in life to make sure that if we ever in this situation again, that you're protected? Are you doing work that you love? If not, let's start something new. So looking at all of that and really making sure that you're setting yourself up for the future is what I want to leave you with. It's time to reinvent. Okay, so getting into the questions period of the morning. Does anybody have any general business questions? So it could be about anything that I've just talked about this morning, or it could be anything random that you have in there as well. Go to the comments section and let me know. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee while you're doing that. So good. Coffee, love in a cup. My husband's walking past sniggering at me. Isn't that the thing? Like at the moment when we're working and there's everybody around all the time, isn't that the most difficult thing? I've actually learned, because a lot of people will think, I'm an extrovert because I can do things like this. I can get on and I can, perform how I have to, and I can speak and I can do all of those things. And I quite enjoy them. But I'm actually very introverted in the sense of I love being alone. I love working alone. My favorite work days are when I have the office to myself and I can just get in and just do what I need to do completely and uninterrupted by other humans. And so it's been really interesting in going, like, everybody's here all the time, that no one's leaving anybody alone. Has anyone else gone through that as well? And how do you deal with that? I spoke to one of my coaching clients the other day who said she's going and sitting in her car for an hour a day and just like listening to music and listening to podcasts and going for a walk and doing all of that. So Francis has asked there, not a question, but my podcast launched today. Well done, Francis. That's fantastic. Feel free to put a link in the comments to your podcast. So if anybody's interested, they can listen. So Francis talks about forever home building. So if you are sitting in your homes right now going, I actually need to do this renovation, how have we sat here the whole time? Francis is your gal. We've been going through that too. We've been sitting there because, as I said earlier, like, we bought a full fixer-upper. So it's it's not too bad. It's red brick. It's got a lot of apricot, a lot of stained glass, a lot of things that need to go. The part that you see is the nicest part of the house. Our bedroom's pretty good too. We did a little reno on that. But everything else is like full apricot kitchen, full all of that. So we've been like sitting here while we've had time and trying to plan new house plans and all of that sort of thing. And we've got carried away. First, we were going to do like a little cosmetic renovation. And now the idea last night, so on a Sunday night, we sat there, we had some Moscow mules around the new fire pit because we needed to do something outside, and started planning like this massive compound U-shape house. Anyway, it's fun, right? Belinda has said, can we still email you questions about Kajabi? You can ask me anything, anytime. If I've got time, I'll always answer it. But if you've got a question, ask me now. So that's what Coffee and Coaching is for, is so that I can give everybody some time and go, if you've got any random questions, this is a way you can ask me and not have to pay for it, which is nice. Okay, so Francis has said, with podcasts, do you suggest episode 1 is a live or it needs to be a proper podcast episode? So do I suggest it be a live? So usually podcasts aren't lives. So I will do my live, like Coffee and Coaching here, and I put it onto the podcast. So the main reason I put it onto the podcast is a lot of people that were listening to Coffee and Coaching on Facebook, they would miss it. Or I've got people that listen in the States and in Canada, and they'd say, I'm missing this. How can I get it later? And people didn't want to go onto Facebook. For some reason, people like watching Facebook Lives, but they don't like watching the whole thing back later. But a podcast is a whole different scenario. So I then got the audio and I put it onto the podcast so people can listen to that as well. I only started that probably we're at episode 80. So this is going on as episode 80. And I think probably 10 episodes ago was when I started. So not all that long ago, but it's up to you and your strategy. If as part of your podcast, you want to do it live and then extrapolate the audio and then put it onto a podcast system, it's a great way to repurpose content. So to not repeat the same thing again or have to do it. But if it's not part of your strategy, then just leave it. A lot of people like a podcast to be really formal. So when I talk to people that listen to her Empire Builder podcast, I find there's some people that actually love the mix up of having some really well thought out, more formal podcast episodes, and then having like the Coffee and Coaching where I'm kind of a little bit all over the place. But some I know just skip the Coffee and Coaching ones. They don't like the informality of it. So it's test and measure. Okay, so if you've got any questions, put them in the comment box and I can answer them for you. Shell's super random question, tips on making a business credit card work for you with frequent flyer points. I am not the expert in that. I do have my Virgin Velocity Amex that I use with frequent flyer points. I do that. That was the best points card I could find. So what I find is I always use a frequent flyer card where I don't get charged fees. So if they will charge an extra 2% to pay with that card, I always choose my normal credit card that I don't get charged anything for. But if you're going to be spending money anyway, you may as well get rewarded for it. Now, the reason I had a little giggle when this came up was I was having this debate with a friend on Saturday. He's in finance and he was just cashing in all his velocity points for like all of the stuff on the shop, worried that Virgin is going to go under. And so I have all these Virgin points because I use them all to fly. So I fly quite a lot normally. Oh my gosh, I miss flying so much. As soon as the world opens, I am going to scramble to the airport with my passport and just get on the first flight to wherever it's going. I'm there. But I have all of those points and I pretty much never pay for flying because I'm able to, any business expense that I go through, I use that and then I use those points to do that. Or I will buy economy airfares because I go to LA usually about 4 or 5 times a year. And I do all the upgrades with frequent flyer points. So if you're going to spend the money anyway, it's definitely worth having a frequent flyer card. But if you're not, if it's going to be more expensive, then don't worry about it. Okay, we've got Belinda here. Do you use ClickFunnels once someone signs up to your offer product with Kajabi? No. So I am what they call a Kajabi purist, which means I don't have the other add-ons. So when you're using something like Kajabi or any sort of membership site, you can have add-on database software. So there's ClickFunnels, there's ActiveCampaign, there's MailChimp, there's a whole lot of different ones, Ontraport, a whole lot of different things that you can use. And the level of sophistication in each of them is different. What I've found is the level of sophistication in a lot of them far outweigh the benefit. So what I mean by that is by having all of the bells and whistles, it's complicated. And so for a lot of people, they've got all the intentions when they go in and going, you know what, when someone joins into a funnel, if they take action A, they're going to be split and then they're going to go into A-B funnels. And then with these funnels, if they take these actions, they're going to be split and they're going to go into these actions. So everyone has these kind of like Einstein scientist ideas of what they're going to do with their database in a nurture sequence. What I find in actual practicality is nobody does that. So if you set up all of these super sophisticated funnels and they confuse the shit out of you, or you don't use them to their full ability, you're just wasting the resource and the time. So for me, I don't really have that much of a sophisticated nurture sequence when someone joins into my mailing list. So what I mean by that is someone will fill in a form, they'll get an email saying, welcome, here we go. And then I email at different intervals. I don't like pump people with nurture sequences. So for a lot of people, when you sign up to something, you'll then go into a 3 email nurture sequence or a 7 email nurture sequence. Or if you're in America, up to a 14 email nurture sequence, which is a lot. It's like death by email. I'm not a fan of that. I find I only communicate with my database when I've got something of value to share, and don't just sell, except in my 1-week launch periods. So when I'm launching courses, I email daily for that. But I think the trouble of them outweigh the benefits. Does that help, Belinda? But Kajabi, you can do pretty sophisticated things anyway. So just with its inbuilt, you can do all of the emails. You can tag people. You can put people into different funnels. The only thing it doesn't do is split funnels. So say someone opts in, and then you've got some people that open the email and some people that click the email and some people that don't open the email. With something like ClickFunnels, you can then put everyone into a different nurture sequence based on that action, those 3 actions. Kajabi, you can't split. Once they're in a funnel, they're in a funnel. And the way to exit that funnel is if they buy or if they opt out. So I think that's plenty, but totally up to you and how fancy you want to get. Lauren said, hey, gorgeous. Hi, Lauren. Okay, so Sandy's asked, so podcast number 1, what would be a good content starting point? Would you sit down and plan for your first 6 or 12, or how many podcasts before you start? Great question. So I would encourage you to go back. I did a live on starting your own podcast the week before last. So I did talk about this then, but in terms of content planning, I actually sit down at the start of each year and I brainstorm episode ideas for the entire year. The reason I do that is because sometimes I'm feeling very creative and can come up with a lot of different things. Sometimes my brain just isn't coming to the party. And so it's handy to actually go on, look at the spreadsheet and go, okay, this is a topic that I can do that I wrote when I was feeling all creative, and have all of the dot points there. So when you're first starting, in saying that, very often I don't go with what's planned. I change my mind based on what's happening on the day, which is what I did today. But having something there as a backup is very, very helpful. So when you're hitting publish on your first podcast, I would always be, say, 3 or 4 weeks in advance. My ideal is 6 weeks. In 100% honesty, I very rarely, actually, I'd never get there. I never get there. But I always want to be in advance, because otherwise it puts too much pressure on you every week to go, all right, what are we going to do this week? And if you get a cold or someone's sick or something happens, you want to be in the right mood. So I find when I'm in the mood for it, I will record 1, 2, 3 podcasts in a row, and then you can batch them up and then schedule them to go out. So usually that works well. You want to have at least 3 when you hit publish on that, because when you first hit publish, you're going to want to publish one, let it index with Apple and with Google Play, and then as soon as it's indexed, then release the second one, and then a couple of days later release the third one. So that will all work really well for you. Okay, so Lauren, I often get asked, do I have an email database? Do you just use Kajabi for yours or another platform? Yes, I just use Kajabi. So you want to, list building is one of the most important things that we can do as, if you're running online courses, if you are building business based, well, any business really, your email database is one of your most valuable assets that you have. So you always want to be list building. I mean, today I recommended you to go to onelifebook.com.au and get the whole life design program that's free. Now, by saying that, yes, it's giving you value, it's giving you massive things, but it's also an exchange. So I'm being able to say, look, I'm going to give you some really cool stuff that's going to work for you. And in return, you're going to give me your email address, which means that when I have something for sale, I can pitch that to you. And if it's right for you, you can buy it. If it's not right for you, you don't have to, but it gives that option. So building that list is so valuable. And so constantly I go through different periods. So it's usually I work on a quarter and I'll sell for 1 week in that 12-week period. So that's my launch time. In those other 11 weeks, it's just value add, value add, value add, value add. Because the more value I give to you, the more you get to know me, which means when I've got the week where we're open for business, it's kind of like, you know what? I am ready. I want that. I want more. If this is what she's given for free, how good's the stuff that she's giving when you pay? So I would always have the email database and always work on growing that list as much as you can, and then nurturing the people that are on that list as well. So Lauren has asked, best ways to build your list. I found the best ways to build the list is by providing massive value. So there's a couple of different ones that have worked really well. So it's being topical as well. So my best one in the last 6 months has been, you can check out how simple the landing page is. So tinatower.com/2020. It was the promotion that we did at the beginning of the year for the 2020 marketing plan. And so for that, a lot of people would sell a 2020 marketing plan. It took a huge amount of work to go into it, to create the editable PDF, to do all of the things, but we gave that away because I knew that at the beginning of the year, everybody needs to work out what their 2020 plan is going to be. So everyone's going to see that. And if they are the person that I want to work with, if they're a female building thought leader businesses in online courses, doing podcasting, doing publishing, doing all that, they're going to need a content planner. And so that was a really valuable one to be able to do. But you want to work out, what does your target audience need and want, and then how can you give that to them? And so you want to give that to them, and then that's the way that you exchange the email addresses. And then you just treat them really well, keep giving massive value, and then by the time you're ready to sell or have a webinar or have a launch, they're ready to buy. Alrighty, have we got any other questions coming through? That's it for the questions that are on there now. I'll have some coffee while we still see, is there any other ones? So you can ask me any random business questions. Have a think as well. I always like to, and one dude. So Mike is one of my clients who is in, Mike, where are you? Are you in Kentucky? He's in the middle of America somewhere, which is what just makes me love the internet even more, is how random it can be in connecting someone like Mike and someone like me in a coastal New South Wales town. It's beautiful. All right, any other questions? Remember, at this time, it's really important to go, especially with what we're doing right now, which every day feels like Groundhog Day, and it's hard to differentiate one day from the next. Our routines are even more important than normal. So, working out, okay, what do we want to do this week? When are we going to start work? When are we going to stop work? What are the things that are the non negotiables? What are all the boundaries that we're going to have in place? What days are we going to put on pants? All of these things are very, very important. Yeah, Newport, Kentucky. That's where Mike is. I got it. All righty, everyone. Have the most fantastic week. Thank you, Sharon. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next Monday at 10 a.m. See you later, everyone.